Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Jim Ryan, and I'm the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and it is my pleasure to welcome Askwith Forum of the Year. I'm delighted that we have with us an award-winning teacher, Hanan Al Hroub, with us tonight. In just a few minutes, Hanan will give a talk about her teaching, and Professor Fernando Reimers will then pose a few questions, including some of yours. Before I introduce Hanan, however, I'd like to offer some thanks and also tell you a little bit about the Askwith Forums for those of you who are joining us for the first time. I'd like to begin by thanking Hillary Rantisi, Chris Mahorter, and their team at the Middle East Initiative at the Harvard Kennedy School for co-sponsoring this forum. They've been terrific partners, and I'm grateful for their support. I'd also like to thank Jody Smith-Bennett, our events manager, for her great work on arranging tonight's event, and Meredith Lamont from the Dean's Office for helping to arrange Hanan's visit. Lastly, I'd like to thank the HGSE Speakers Committee, which consists of student, faculty, and staff who help identify and recruit outstanding speakers to our school to participate in a number of events, including the Askwith Forums. I believe all of these people deserve a round of applause. So the Askwith Forums, these forums bring leaders in the education field to campus to share their knowledge, their experience, and their insights. The forums, in my view, help strengthen the intellectual life of the school through conversation, debate, and the exchange of ideas. They're also a way for us to open our door to the wider Harvard community and the general public. Last year, for example, 20,000 people joined us on campus and online for 14 forums. This year, we have a terrific lineup for the fall semester. In addition to this evening's speaker, we have a number of outstanding panels and speakers, including Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, and Ron Suskind, the author of Life Animated, a book and an award-winning documentary that chronicles the life of Ron's autistic son, who found expression through Disney movies. We're also launching a new series this year entitled Askwith Debates. These debates will address some of the hottest controversies in education and hopefully model the ways in which civil and respectful disagreement can promote deeper understanding. The first Askwith debate will be on the Massachusetts Charter Cap ballot question, and it will be held next week on September 27th. I hope you'll save the date. If you're interested in more information on this debate or on other Askwith Forum events, just check out the HGSE website. So now to the main event. It's my pleasure to introduce Hanan. Social science research sometimes leads to surprising findings, and other times it helpfully confirms our intuitions. We all know, for example, from our own experiences, that teachers matter. And in this instance, social science research confirms our intuition. Researchers have documented that teacher quality is the single most important in-school factor in student learning. For the last 15 years, Hanan has not just helped her students learn, which she certainly has. She's been the kind of teacher who changes lives. At her school near the Palestinian city of Ramallah, Hanan has been teaching young people whose childhoods have been touched by trauma. Using a message of nonviolence and the concept of teaching through play, her mission is to encourage her students to work together and to learn to build trust and respect. Growing research here at Harvard and beyond about the deleterious effects of trauma on students underscores the importance of Hanan's work, and the cycle of violence in the United States and around the world underscores its urgency. Thankfully, Hanan's teaching has already made an impact in her community and beyond. Her approaches have been replicated by colleagues in the hope of reducing disruptive and violent behavior in schools, and teachers and school leaders are reporting that these methods are working. To ensure that our methods make an even larger impact, Hanan has also shared her experiences in conferences and seminars and has written extensively about them in her book entitled We Play and Learn. She now has a moment on the global stage because her innovative methods led to her selection as this year's winner of the Global Teacher Prize. This $1 million prize is sponsored by the Varkey Foundation, was launched in 2015, and recognizes an exceptional teacher who has made an outstanding contribution to his or her profession. Hanan was selected from more than 8,000 candidates from around the world, including finalists from Australia, Finland, India, Japan, Kenya, Pakistan, Great Britain, and the United States. I was personally delighted to serve on the selection committee for the prize, and I was only sorry that I couldn't be at the ceremony in person this year to see Hanan receive word from none other than Pope Francis that she had won. I'm delighted that Vikas Poda, the chief executive of the Varkey Foundation, is here in the audience tonight, along with members of his team. I'd like to thank the Varkey Foundation for their tremendous efforts in recognizing and celebrating the profession of teaching and the impact of teachers on their students and communities. And I believe that they, too, deserve a round of applause. So here's how the event will go. Tonight, Hanan will teach us a bit about her teaching by giving a talk, and then, as I mentioned, Fernando Reimers will pose some questions to get the conversation started. Fernando, as many of you know, is the Ford Foundation Professor of Practice in International Education and also the Faculty Director of the International Education Policy Program here at HGSE. I know that Fernando would also love to ask some of your questions as well, so I will encourage you to jot down a question for Hanan on an index card, which you all should have. We'll collect these after Hanan speaks. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to all of your questions, but we'll do our best. Hanan will give her talk in English, but we'll rely on Michelle Marie Antaki, our interpreter, to help with the Q&A portion of the event. For those of you who don't speak Arabic, that's the part where you will need your headsets. Fernando will tell you when to put them on. I'm delighted now to turn the podium over to an internationally recognized teacher, which is a phrase I believe we don't hear nearly often enough. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Hanan Al Hroub.
Good evening. Sorry about my English. I promise next year I will be good. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to speak to you today in one of the world's greatest institutions dedicated to the power of learning. When I look around here, I think of all the minds through history that have been transformed within these four walls, whether in a grand building in Boston or in a simple room in Ramallah. We must remember that universities are some of our most precious places. They must always be treasured. Firstly, I want to thank the Harvard Graduate School of Education for hosting this important event and Harvard Kennedy School for co-hosting. You are helping to shine a spotlight on teachers, something that the world needs more than ever before. I would like to start by telling you a little about my own teacher journey. I grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Bethlehem. In 1979, when I was a student in grade 2, our new teacher introduced herself by saying, "My name is Julia from Bethlehem, the cradle of Christ. What is your name?" As we introduced ourselves, she explained the meaning of our names in a way that made us feel very special. She won our hearts through her tenderness. I could not wait to see her the next morning. She was the source of my inspiration, and every time I looked at her, I said to myself, I will become like you one day. Many years later, when I became a teacher and set foot in a classroom for the very first time, I also introduced myself by saying, "My name is Hanan," which means affection. I then explained the meaning of all the children's name in my classroom, and I hope it made them feel special too. The spark that set me on the road to becoming a teacher was when my own children developed trauma after witnessing a horrific accident by occupation on the way back from school. They became withdrawn, afraid to go back to school, and very aggressive towards each other. Their academic work also suffered, and there was no professional help available, feeling very alone. I researched in libraries and bookshops and taught my children at home. A corner of our house became their new classroom. I started playing with my children to help them open up. We used balloons, puppets, and role play, anything to bring out their inner child. Eventually, they returned to school. From then on, I made it my purpose in life to help traumatized children in Palestine's public schools. I now teach at Samiha Khalil High School in Palestine. Here in Palestine, we live in a very tense situation, which makes our education mission very complicated. Here, children either witness violence firsthand or are exposed to it via news reports and social media. This suffering gets into the classroom and leads to frustration. The atmosphere is not normal like classrooms here in the USA or around the world. We see the suffering in our students' eyes every day. From my very first day as a teacher, I embraced the No to Violence slogan and developed the play and learn approach that I started in my home. I decided that teachers, like artists, must create an environment that frees the child and their imagination from their daily trauma and helps them shape it in a loving and beautiful way. Due to a lack of funding, I need to be creative to bring my lessons to life. I have built reading corners in the classroom and chairs for the students from discarded vegetable boxes. I designed games from my sister's neglected Lego pieces. Mathematics lessons are aided with plastic cups, plates, and clothes pins. I have made a puppet theater out of a former clothes horse and an orchard in the classroom from artificial grass. The only limit is your imagination. This has helped me produce positive outcomes such as eliminating aggression and promoting dialogue and cooperation. It also reduces students' ego and selfishness. In addition, I have an open discussion with all my students about their attitude towards each other. I give them the opportunity to express themselves out loud. We encourage teamwork so they acquire an ingrained belief that dialogue and listening to others can lead to better outcomes than being self-opinionated. I am proud that the Ministry of Education in Palestine is applying these principles. The students and the teachers should not be overloaded. It should be the first priority to provide a safe, attractive, and fun educational environment. We want our children to live by love and peace, just as other children around the world are able to do. Whatever difficulties life throws at us, we can overcome them if we give our children safe and hopeful future. To quote the late Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, we have on this earth what makes life worth living. I would like to congratulate Sani Varkey for having the vision to create the Global Teacher Prize. It makes the world talk about teaching. Around the world, teaching is not as valued as other professions, but teachers are the real power of the world. It is teachers that light the spark of curiosity. It is teachers that point and guide the way. It is teachers who take the next generation in their hands and shape them. I still can't believe the magical moment when His Holiness Pope Francis announced my name as the winner of the Global Teacher Prize 2016. It still feels like a dream. Since winning the prize, I have traveled to Europe, South America, and now this great city of Cambridge, and I can't read it. They changed the word. That's your word. Sorry. I have visited many schools and universities and listened to countless students across the world. But my greatest joy comes from speaking to superhero teachers working in the most difficult situations. These teachers have taught me so much. They can teach us all so much. Finally, I must tell you that I was fortunate to meet His Holiness Pope Francis at the Vatican in Rome earlier this year. When His Holiness Pope Francis announced me as a winner of the Global Teacher Prize, he said, "A child has the right to play. Part of education is to teach children how to play because you learn how to be social through games as well as learn the joy of life." His Holiness is wise. Children must always play and always smile. Thank you very much. I apologize for my mistake. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hanan. That was wonderful. And thank you for coming to spend this evening with us. This might be a time when you want to get your headsets and put them in channel 3. You should all have cards where you can jot down your questions as they occur to you. And if you want to pass them down to the ends, we'll try to have someone collect them. If not, we'll do that at the end of the next 20 minutes. I'm going to ask Hanan a few questions. So let me begin with this prize. In what ways has winning this prize impacted your work as a teacher and how you think about your role as a teacher?
أكيد بالتأكيد إنه أثر على عملي كمدرسة.
That this prize, this award, has impacted my work as a teacher because I have become a symbol, I have become a role model, and I created quite a stir. So everybody, wanted to emulate what I have done. Everybody wanted to be a better teacher. So the most important thing is that I brought my methodology from a local environment to a larger one. Before it was, students in Palestine who were able to benefit from my methodology, and then a few teachers as well who emulated me. But now it's not only in Palestine, now it's the world at large that has become familiarized with my methodology. So this is like a big step.
So you talked about your second grade teacher who inspired you. Is that the reason why you chose to become a teacher, or why did you make that decision?
Quite frankly, I really liked her a lot and I looked up to her. But no, I cannot say that she was the main factor in my decision. The main factor was that I became the instructor and the teacher of my own children because I couldn't find any assistance from academia or from my government, and my children were almost lost to me because they were in a crisis. So I felt that I really had to do something. And I put myself in the shoes of other mothers who were probably facing similar circumstances, and I really wanted to help. And but I remember my teacher. She had a beautiful angelic smile on her face. I'm 43 years old now, but I still remember her angelic face. So I'm sure she left a deep imprint on me, and she has shaped the woman that I am. But no, she wasn't the main factor.
So, from your teachers to your students, you have already told us that part of what you try to do is to make learning playful and to give your students an opportunity to enjoy their education. But as you think about the kinds of people you want them to become, the kinds of skills you hope your students will gain, how do you think about the goals of your own teaching for your students?
It all started inside my home. I was with my children at home, as I said, and I had to devise something. And then I decided to systematize this new methodology and refine it until it become something more systematic. But methodology was not only to combat violence, but it was also to foster creativity, and it was to remedy absent-mindedness. So it was doing several things at once.
So creativity, helping them focus attention, helping them enjoy learning. These are the goals. Part of your methodology is focused on literacy instruction, right? On teaching, helping your young students learn how to read. Can you tell us a little bit about how you think about the combination of these development of skills, of academic skills, with self-knowledge and the skills to work with other kids? How do you think about all these various domains?
I think that the games that I'm using inside the classroom are very deliberate. I mean, don't think for a minute that they are something totally spontaneous. No, they're very well thought out. I spend much time to study them, to devise them, and what I try to do through this process of playing is to inculc my kids with ethics, moral values. I try to teach life skills to my students. They have to learn cooperation, mutual respect, tolerance, to respect other people's feeling, in order to do away with control, with domination of others, with hatred. Hatred is forbidden in my classroom. My classroom is a safe place, a peaceful place where there is love, there is joy, and there is respect towards others. These games have been carefully planned in order to achieve these goals.
You know that the idea of education as a human right began at the end of World War II in the hopes that education and other human rights would contribute to peace, to global peace. In what way are these skills that you help your students develop, and more generally, in what ways do you think that teachers in their work contribute to peace?
شيء أكيد نقطة انطلاق السلام من داخل الصفوف الدراسية.
I definitely think that peace starts inside the classroom, and thus from the teachers themselves. It is impossible to teach peace to one student if you don't have peace within you, inside of you. And then peace will propagate across communities and societies, like life itself. It becomes part of life itself.
هو مجاني التعليم وحق للجميع فبما انه التعليم حق للجميع احنا بنقدر نحل كل المشكلات الموجوده بالعالم من خلال التعليم اذا بنركز على
Learning is a right for everybody, then why not teach peace to everybody? I think that anger, rancor, all these negative feelings, I think, can completely disappear if we incorporate in our curricula values that promote something totally different, something like peace, like tolerance, like. But these values are universal because we don't know where life will take us. So maybe tomorrow we'll be in a different environment. They have still to be valid everywhere.
I can see in listening to you, Hanan, and earlier in a conversation that we had, that you're a very reflective teacher, someone who has reflected on your life, who reflects on the work you do with students, and that reflection helps you to continuously find ways to better reach your students. What has helped you develop that capacity to reflect, and how could we help more teachers develop that capability to be deeply reflective in their practice and to have the ability to be in charge of their own learning, continuous learning?
انطلاقا من ايمان المعلم بدوره
I think that the teacher has to proceed from a belief in the importance of transforming the lives of their students. The teacher has to be convinced that he can be a positive factor. But of course, the teacher needs to be trained for that, and this training has to be provided by governments. And however, the starting point must be a belief from the teacher in the importance of their role. Without it, nothing can happen. And of course, you know, an external help can be instrumental as well, but nothing can happen if if there is no belief in the teacher in the importance of their role in being a factor for a positive change. As a teacher, my overarching goal is to make people accountable, to give them a sense of their own responsibility. Everybody in their own place, wherever they are, can take their responsibility, can be a contributor. I want everybody to contribute to peace, to joy. I want everybody to feel happiness. And we also have to realize, to be convinced of our solidarity as human beings, of our commonality.
Speaking about commonality, you were just in the United Nations and gave a speech there. And as you know, the United Nations approved a year ago a new set of goals for development, which includes a big emphasis on education, on global citizenship education. What do you think about this concept, and how is it relevant to students like the students that you teach, or students of the teachers that you meet?
بكلمتي بالأمم المتحدة طلبت
In my statement before the UN, I asked world leaders to give utmost importance to education as a way to resolve problems in the world. I asked them to devote bigger budgets to education because any change must start from education and from teachers actually.
طالبت الحكومات أو صناع القرار
I asked governments and decision
يركزوا على
makers
المعلمين احتياجاتهم
to shine a light on the needs of teachers
الأشياء اللي هم بحاجتها تهيئة الظروف لهم ليعملوا
and
بشكل جيد يطبقوا نظرياتهم
to
بجوز سألت أسئلة
be
عدة
aware
أسئلة بكلمة
that teachers need to be assisted.
وكمعلم سألت أسئلة وكفلسطيني
As a
سألت
former
أسئلة
refugee, I
طرحتها
asked many
للعالم
questions,
كله
I
يعني.
flagged many
لأنه أنا
problems.
نفسي كمعلم وكفلسطيني
As
ما
a
بقدر أجاوب مش قادرة أجاوب عليها
Because as a teacher and as a Palestinian, I don't have the answer to all questions.
Now, you were once a refugee, and there are today 6 million refugee children in the school, and more than half of them are not in school today. What do you think are the most important things that all of us could do to support the education of these children?
بالبداية إنه الاهتمام باللاجئين بشكل عام دون المستوى.
First of all, it's important to give our attention to refugees. And I think that the solution devised by world leaders are not enough with regard to the number of refugees and the magnitude of their needs. We have, first of all, to ensure the dignity to every human being. Even before we talk about teaching or learning, when you have a refugee living in a camp, where is dignity? Where is dignity when you have to be subjected to huge variations of temperature? I mean, there's no dignity in life within a refugee camp. But I think that if these refugees are given a decent life, instead of, turning for the worse and going down paths that are deleterious, I think, they might have a more positive stance, a more positive outlook. I think that these refugees, experience many trauma, much trauma in their lives. They experience a lot of suffering. How can we remedy all that? Of course, education has to be part of the way we show that we care, but that's not enough. This is only part of the problem. And addressing educational need is only part of the solution. I think that if these refugees could find a habitat or a host country that would welcome them, that will embrace them, I think that would, solve half of the problem at least. These refugees need to find a place where they can feel at home, where they can be integrated, and then they would be able to learn new skills, new languages. But before that, we have to think of the root causes that led to this displacement of the refugees. Why did they leave their countries? Why? What do you think could push someone to leave, his or her own country in order to go to a foreign country? I mean, think of it for a minute. What would prompt these people to leave their own countries? It's because they search for a better life. It's because life had become impossible. So they're looking for a new homeland. So it's like leaving a mother. Your own country is like a mother. What would prompt you to leave a mother?
Thank you. You said a moment ago that teachers can have very profound positive effects in their students if they first believe that they have this capacity. and if they're recognized for their work. Obviously, you and other finalists for this prize have been recognized by the Varkey Education Foundation, and I'm sure that experience has given you and your fellow finalists many opportunities to have a bigger stage, to learn from one another. But you're a small group of 50 finalists every year, and there are 60 million teachers around the world. What could be done to provide more teachers an opportunity to be recognized for their work, an opportunity to have voice over their work, an opportunity to gain and increase their own agency in transforming the lives of their students? What kinds of things could be done that could be within the reach of most of those teachers?
التركيز على المدرسين في المجتمعات تسليط الأضواء
I
عليهم
think we have to shine a light on the status of instructors and teachers in the world. We have to bring out their importance. We have to give them more prestige. We have to glamorize their profession. There is nobody who can graduate from a university without having gone through the hand of a teacher. So therefore, the teacher is extremely important. So we have to give an enhanced status, enhanced prestige to teachers. Teachers are not recognized for what they do. I'm talking for my region in particular. We are not recognized. We have extremely insufficient salaries. So what we would like is to have a decent life. We would like to have more recognition, more appreciation, because any program, any endeavor that neglects the contribution of teachers is doomed to failure. So the needs of teachers must be recognized. Once teachers have a better life, have better salaries, once they get the proper recognition, like, for example, in my case, I got this wonderful award from the Varkey Foundation, and I thank them for that, because now the world is speaking of the needs of proper teaching. So this problem has acquired prominence. I think we have a lot of problems that could be avoided if we gave proper status to teachers. How can I encourage my son, to learn how to become a teacher if he doesn't think that this is going to bring him an added value? I have some students in Palestine who had very high marks in their undergraduate studies, but they didn't want to pursue any longer. I have offered them to become teachers, but they didn't want. They'd rather be doctors, engineers, lawyers.
Fairly young students. You stay in touch with them many years after that? Do you stay in touch with your former students?
نعم صحيح أنا متواصلة مع طلابي.
Yes, indeed. I have an ongoing dialogue with my students through social networks also. And when I got my awards, they congratulated me. They said to me that if their own life has been enhanced, it's because of me. And they said that with education, we can do a lot of things. We cannot build our country without the proper education. So they give me credit. I gave them a very strong desire to pursue their education, and they gave me credit for it.
That's wonderful. Maybe some of them are watching tonight. Before I ask you one last question, I'm going to ask those of you who have filled out your cards to pass them to the ends of each row so we can collect them. So I'm certain, Hanan, based on our conversations, that you're a terrific teacher. I would have been very happy to have you be the teacher of my sons. But you're only with your students for a period of their lives. Then they go on to work with other teachers. What do you do, or what can be done so that within schools, the experience of having a wonderful teacher for a student is not an exceptional experience in their lives, but is what they experience every single grade that they are in that school? What could be done at the school level or outside the school to help all teachers reach the levels of excellence that you have reached in your practice?
حنان تضل تحكي فطول ما حنان بتحكي عن تجربتها أكيد رح تضل ملهمة
I think that
للمعلمين.
Hanan will continue speaking about her experience, because this is going to make people think and reflect. When they see what happened to Hanan, maybe people will think, well, if Hanan could do it, why can't I do it? And this is going to bring new awareness among other people.
يعرضوا تجاربهم يكون لهم دور بمجتمعاتهم لازم يكون لهم دور يعرضوا التجارب اللي لهم بمجتمعات قصص نجاحهم.
I think that other teachers have also to speak of their own experiences. They have to say to others the role that they have played or the contribution that they were able to bring. They have to bring a new awareness of the role of teachers. So actually what I did is I was able to motivate other teachers. What I studied at university is the role of motivation, but I've never thought that this motivation would apply to this area of teaching. That was my specialization at university without knowing what would be its ramification. I think we have great teachers, and I would like to be able to motivate them. And for that, it's important to shine a light on what they do, on the real contribution that they bring. For example, mass media, they are very prompt in talking about great artists, for example. Why can't they talk about great teachers? I respect journalists, but why can't they say something about teachers?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of this recognition that you have received from the Varkey Foundation is that it has made you a member of a community of now 100 teachers who were the finalists for this award 2 years ago and then last year. And I know that the Varkey Foundation brings all of you together at least once a year for a couple of days. And I know you have a very active online platform. And I know that you have organized yourselves in communities where you're working on specialized topics, some of you on literacy, some of you on mathematics, and so on. What has this membership in this community done for you? How has that impacted the way you think about your work, your role, or how has it impacted the other members of this community?
في حياتي أكيد إنه
In my own life, what I can say is that this award has made people has caused people to talk about teachers. Before, nobody was talking of teachers, but now people have paused and have started to reflect uh, about teachers, about the role of teaching. And then we have formed a small community of teachers who are exchanging experiences. We engage with each other. We have become goodwill ambassadors to the Varkey Foundation because we all have a unique experience, of course, but however, we can still be a role model for others. So all the finalists or the top 10 have been able to work on short films that are to talk about teachers. We provide encouragement to creativity, we try to give some useful tips, and we also draw people's attention to teachers. For example, mathematics. Most students in the world hate mathematics. Why? We, for example, decided to ask a few teachers to speak about the way in which they teach mathematics so they would seem less annoying or repulsive to students, or maybe enjoyable.
Okay, Hanan, we have lots of questions here. We're going to try to get to most of them. I'm going to ask them one at a time, and then you can answer. So the first one is, can you describe one of the games you play with the children to help them develop ethics and moral values?
طبعا الألعاب اللي بستخدمها أنا بشكل أساسي هي من البيئة، إعادة تدوير من البيئة غالبيتها.
Most of the games that I use are actually taken from ordinary life that I recycle.
فصفي هو بيتي بصرف عليه زي ما بصرف على بيتي.
And
حتى طلابي بالصف بيستنوا راتبي إمتى بنزل، يعني بيعرفوا موعد راتبي.
I actually spend from my own money, from my own salary, in order to get all these toys or all these games. And my students know very well when I'm getting paid, when is, and they wait for my payday because they know this is part of it will translate into new toys for them or new innovations. And these games help me to induce behavioral modification with my pupils. And for example, my classroom, I divide it into smaller groups. Sometimes, the students belonging to one group form a homogeneous group, or sometimes not. Sometimes it's the opposite, depending on the goal that I'm pursuing. I gave the example today of the game, the Lego game. I use the building blocks in order to combine words or sentences. Sometimes I take car wheels that I repaint, and I try to explain how gravitation works. So these wheels stand for satellites, for celestial bodies, and I make them, turn on themselves, and this replicates a little bit the way in which celestial stars gravitate in the sky. So all these items are co-opted by me in order to explain certain natural phenomena. I also use ribbons in different colors or cans that contain juice.
بنشروا غسيل
and also the tools that we use to hang the laundry.
او بعرف جداول ضرب
So I co-opt all these objects,
العاب جماعيه
these
شو مثلا
household
لو الالعاب
items,
الجماعيه الصف ممكن يكون
to
كلهم
create
بفريق
new
واحد
toys.
ممكن الصف يكون فريقين
And sometimes
يكون
the whole
الصف مقسم الى
classroom
مجموعات صغيره
played on
حسب انا شو بدي
one
طبعا
game, and
الالعاب
sometimes I divide them into small group, and
مستوى المجموعه
I invent
كل مجموعه
games
بتكون لعبتها مخصصه
where one
لاحتياجاتها
group does something while the other group does something
او
else.
مثلا
I mean, all
بدي
kinds of
مجموعه اطلع يعني يكون بدي
methods
اطلع شو عندهم
are possible.
طاقاتهم
It depends what I
امكانياتهم
want to bring out in these children. I want to bring out certain
بدي
talents,
ارتقي فيهم يعني
I want to bring out the
المستوى اللي
best
يكون
in
عالي،
them.
بدي شيء يتحدى قدراتهم وتفكيرهم.
I want them to be better than they are. I want them to
المجموعة
push the
المعالجة
envelope.
شيء بدي اعالجه تكون ضمن قدراته. المتوسط بتكون ضمن
So I
قدراته.
kind
كل
of
لعبة مخصصة
adapt
حسب المستوى
to the
وأنا شو بدي
situation.
احقق.
And then
طبعا
also the other thing that I take into
لازم تكون
account
مدروسة
is what is my goal.
ولا
So
بتكون
of
لعبة اوكي
course
مستمتعين
this
وبيلعبوا
game has to be something carefully studied,
هو بيلعب
I don't do things in an haphazard way. I
هو بيلعب
think
وبتعلم
carefully
بطريقة
about
مبسوط.
what I want to achieve and what I want to bring out in my students, and then I devise the game that's appropriate.
So there are several questions where members of the audience are interested in these games. And this one is, which game was most difficult for you to design? Can you think of a game that was especially difficult to design? And what were you trying to teach with that game?
هي مش لعبة. كان نفسي يكون عندي مسرح دومة بالصف ومكلف. بدي اروح على نجار بكلفني كثير. صرت افكر كيف انا بدي يكون عندي مسرح دومة بالصف.
I wanted to have a marionette theater in my classroom, and that was costly because I would have needed to hire
اي شخص يشك ولو للحظة
an
انه ما يصير غسيل.
a specialist, and then I had this idea then to use the special device that we use to hang the laundry, but because I was really thinking, and it would have been much too costly for me. And then all of a sudden I had my aha moment, and I said, oh, okay, so I think I'm going to to use this particular object. And I was very happy that I used my imagination in this fashion.
And what were you trying to teach with this marionette theater? What was your goal with this game?
بمسرح الدمى بعرض دروس ممكن تكون دروس.
دروس فيها
Some lessons that contain moral
تكون فيها افكار
lessons for students. They can learn when there is a story.
توصل الفكرة للطالب اسرع.
I think that with puppets, the lesson will be able to be conveyed to students in a better fashion than if the lesson is theoretical. And I think it stays in your mind.
بكون مرات
It's like a parable.
بلبس لبس مهرج.
Sometimes I also, wear, the mask of a clown or something,
بلبسه امام الطلاب.
and I do it in front of my students. I don't go outside to wear it. I wear it in front of my students. And all of a sudden, my students look at me and they completely get immersed in the experience. I'm a different person for them. I become a different protagonist. And once I remove, my attire, I'm again Hanan. So the students follow me. They get into the mood, into the swing of things.
جنبه في حديقة.
At another instance, I would have liked to take my children to a garden, but it was impossible. So what I did is to bring, this artificial grass, this kind of carpet, the green carpet that you can buy, and then I made artificial flowers from plastic and also fruit bearing trees, and I created an artificial garden like that. And I told my kids, we're going to learn in a garden today. So children get into, because of their imagination, they get into the swing of things, and then they imagine that they were inside a garden. I also have a library in my classroom that I made out of, makeshift boxes that contain vegetables, and they were about to be discarded. So I take them and I press them into service, and they become almost like bookcases. So if I tell one of my students, what is the kind of prize do you want if you are a good student? Usually they take the most obvious thing like a balloon, etc. in the beginning. But then little by little they start choosing books. And they said, I want to go to a library as my reward, or sometimes they want to go to an artist studio. So I create these little corners that recreate certain settings, and students respond. And then the other thing is that in my classroom, from the first day, I try to impress my kids with the notion that we are a family.
To try some of those methods with my students, especially the clown hat and the nose and the puppets. Hanan, here's another question. If I visited your school, I'm sure that I would see your classroom from a distance and I would hear the excitement. Is that what I would see in other classrooms? Are these practices part of the entire community of the school? And are these practices shared by teachers? Or is your classroom special and other classes are very different?
لا طبعا مش كل الصفوف زي صفي، هو صف الوحيد وبتقدر تعرف عن
No,
بعد
of course, not all classrooms are identical.
بتقدر تعرف طلابي.
I think you can recognize mine among 1,000. Same thing for my students. They can be recognized, among so many others. You can tell these are Hanan's kids. But my resources are very modest. They're not commensurate with my energy, with my desire, with my ambition, with my desire to make a change. Sometimes I want to do so much, but I can't because of the lack of resources. But as a refugee, I have resourcefulness in my mind. We don't have many things, us refugee, but we learn how to recycle things in our environment. And if I can't recycle something, I buy it. For example, I have a certain chair of a good student that I took from the refuse of my neighbors. And I went, and I took it by stealth, and I was looking around to make sure that nobody would look at me while I was like taking this from, my neighbor's garbage. And I didn't want my husband to be ashamed of me. But what I did is like paint this chair, clean it, renovate it, and it became like a throne. It became like, the chair, of the good student who needs, who gets his recognition. I sit him on that throne. There is no limit to what imagination can achieve.
I agree. With the award you have received, you and the work that you do, are now publicly known. And as a result, you have become very influential. So how do you plan to use this power moving forward in the future? What are your plans after this year when you're going to be traveling?
بقدر أطلب مساعدة من صديق؟
Can I enlist the help of a friend?
هدفي الأساسي لفت أنظار العالم
My main
للمعلمين
goal is to attract
وأهميتهم في
people's
المجتمعات.
attention
رح أستخدم كل إمكانياتي
to the importance of
لصالح
teachers.
المعلمين
So I'm going to
لأنه
use
نقدر نعمل
everything I can. I will not leave a stone unturned
عالم
in order to
يتغير إذا قفز
get
أو
people's
استثمر
attention
المعلمين.
to the importance of teachers,
لو إن البعض
because
بيرفضها،
nothing,
لكن هي
but
حقيقة.
nothing in life can be achieved without the teacher's contribution. This is a fact.
This is a question that most teachers can relate with, and it has to do with the parents. How do you manage the differences that you may have with the parents? So the question reads as this. You, as the teacher, want an environment of peace and understanding for your children, but your children live in an environment in addition to the environment that you create for them in the school. And there are other people who have views that may not be so tolerant as those that you have. And so how do you manage that? The fact that you may be teaching your students a set of values and a set of goals which are not necessarily shared by everyone around them. How do you tell a child that their parents' views may be wrong, is what the question says.
هو أبوه يعني هدول أولياء أمور يعني ما بقدر أشكك في شو ماذا يقول أولياء الأمور.
I
لكن
cannot
بشتغل
make people
بمكتب
doubts in
عن ما يدور خارج الصف.
what their parents say. I do it in a different way. I show them something different. I give them another choice, and I open up a space for them to think about which alternative is better. So it's up to them to think and to decide for themselves which is the alternative that they prefer. I give them incentives, I show them things. And of course, if I score results, then of course parents will be more convinced of my methodology. Of course, what happens outside my classroom, I have no control over it. But what I can do as a teacher is give them a space where my students will grow in a peaceful way, in a healthy way, in a way that will make them be of service to their country, to their community. But I also try to have some meetings with the parents, and I try to explain to them, to bring to bear upon them that this is a good method. I show them the consequences. I tell them that, for example, if they decide to have a different discourse, well, there will be such and such consequences. But if I talk peace to their kids, of course, you're going to have a different set of consequences. So I tell them that if I opt for a different course, please, help me.
What are your views on the role of language development and literacy in opening opportunities for your students?
معلش عيد السؤال ما عرفته كمان.
I can ask you again. In your opinion, what is the role of language and literacy in opening up opportunities for your students?
اللغة ثقافة. اللغة
Language
بتعبر عن الثقافة.
means culture, is the vector of culture, is the conveyor of culture.
إذا بدك تعرف ثقافة بلد
If you want
احكي
to know the
لغتهم.
culture
تعرف
of
على
a country,
ثقافتهم.
then you have to speak the language of that people. Illiteracy is the biggest enemy,
بيكون موجود في البلد. أكبر عائق لتطور
is the
البلد
biggest
وتقدمه.
obstacle to the development and the progress of a country. The first thing that a country should do or a nation should do is to combat illiteracy.
للتعبير عن ثقافة هذا البلد.
So
فلازم الواحد يتعلم اللغة.
language is actually the best tool in order to foster a new culture.
What can be done to help teachers become more creative in their methods?
بتصور إنه أنا جاوبت على جزء من هذا
I think that I
السؤال،
have
لكن
responded
الجزء اللي بدي
partially
أحكيه،
to this question.
إعطاء المعلمين مساحة من الحرية.
I think we have to give more freedom to teachers, more latitude to devise the methods that are going to help them reach their goals. But as far as I'm concerned, that was the main obstacle. In the beginning, I wasn't able to use the methodology that I wanted. There were intervention from the government, and I also had time constraints. What I want is to be free to choose my own methods, to take the time that I need to do things in my own good time, to choose the sequence that is more appropriate to reaching my goals. So what I want from the authorities is to listen to me and to see what I have in mind, and maybe you'll be convinced. I think the problem is that the voice of teacher is not heard. And this stifles creativity little by little.
So I think we have one more question. What role did your upbringing, your growing up, play in shaping your values and your teaching style? In what way is the teacher that you are today a result of the way in which you grew up?
لما بدك تسأل عن طفولتي صعبة.
If you want to ask about my childhood, I had a wretched childhood. It was a very difficult childhood. There is no doubt that it played a big role in shaping the woman that I am today. But my childhood was extremely difficult, and I suffocate when I even think of it. Whenever I see an unhappy child in the world, I can immediately know if the child is unhappy, because I was an unhappy child myself. And now, of course, I would like to bring some happiness to children. So you can call that an extension of my own experience as a child. I want children to be able to dream, to play, to hope, to be happy. I think that childhood was stolen from today's children. I think this is a crime. I'm always praying, God, let them leave children alone. We are duty bound to lift children out of this situation. On a more positive note, I can say that I try to inculcate my kids with a hope in a better tomorrow. But I also tell them that in order to get there, they have to learn, and they have to learn the right way and the right things.
Good. Is there any question that we have not asked you, but you wish we had? Is there anything else you would like to say tonight?
No.
No.
So Hanan, in this school, we share your conviction that teachers can actually prepare their students to invent a future that is much better than the present. And we try to do our share in this school with our students in preparing some of those teachers and some of those people who are going to work with them. But we thank you for your conversation in helping us understand just how it is that teachers can do that work as you do so well, that has hope, that has tremendous creativity to work with resources that may not always be what is necessary to do what is absolutely the best for each of your students. And so thank you very much for sharing that and for renewing our own hope in teaching and in teachers like you. Thank you.
شكرا كثير لكم. شكرا على الدعوة. شكرا لك. فخورة إني
Thank you so very much for this invitation. Thank you to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.